Welcome to This Week in Lebanon Warriors Athletics here on LebanonWarriors.com and ESP Media powered by Sign Up Sports. I'm Jason Griefer. As always, we're joined by Lebanon Athletic Director Keith Pantling, and good to have you back with us, Keith. We'll talk into some of your winter sports here in just a moment, but first I want to talk about something that's getting underway here at Lebanon High School. Been underway now for about a week now to try and give back to the community, and of course it's as important time as any that everybody who can give back does give back, and we're doing that right now with the annual food drive that's going on to help out the Lebanon Food Pantry. In the past, raised over 15,000 pounds of food to give to folks. We're hoping to exceed that this year. What's been the feedback and the outpouring of support from the community thus far?
So far, so good. It's been we have about 40 kids in our Captain's Council, which is some members from each of our teams come together. We meet pretty regularly and do some leadership type things, and then we do some outreach. And so we had a great initiative at Christmas time where we raised close to $10,000 for some local families for Christmas. And now they really rallied around this and want to take this to a new level. So really proud of them. There's some different ideas we're throwing out there with COVID. It's a little bit different. We're unable to kind of go to the grade schools and things and shake them down for cans, so to speak. So just trying to get the word out. We have drop spots at all of our schools in the district. You can also drop them off at our Warrior Fan Shop at Market 640. And towards the end of the month, we'll collect them all. And again, trying to get over that 15,000 pound mark.
And Market 640 is at 640 North Broadway. Of course, as you said, there's lots of locations to drop off that canned food, and important for students to donate as well, because 2 classrooms at each school who bring the most cans in there, they get donuts. So who doesn't like donuts? So why not give back and then give yourself a chance to enjoy some donuts there and donate to a good cause there. So Lebanon Food Pantry needs your support. Donate if you can there. It's certainly going to a worthy cause for sure. Let's start talking about some of your athletic teams, and let's first start on the hardwood here, and let's start with the boys. 10-2 on the year, 6-1 in the ACC with 2 important road trips coming up here right now. You're sitting just right behind Turpin for the top of the league. You're tied with Walnut for second at 6-1, but interesting road trip you've got right now this coming week. Scheduled for Little Miami and Kings, and Little Miami is winless on the year. Kings has won just 2 games in the league. So with that being said, pretty important right here against teams in theory you should beat. How important is that, and how understanding are the kids of the fact that these are 2 teams they should take care of and need to in order to keep pace at the top of the league?
Well, more of that coach speak, Jason. I think they're just trying to take care of business and do what they can to play their best basketball. With all the shakeups with COVID and the schedule, I think now more than ever they've just learned to focus on themselves and doing what they can do to improve. We had moved a game originally scheduled for yesterday, which is Monday, I believe, to Saturday with Monroe. It's when some of those local or regional events were canceled. And then now Kings was originally supposed to be later in February, moved up to this Saturday, and Friday's game with Turpin now moved to later in February. So they're just kind of taking the next one as they come and now more than ever focusing on what they can do to be playing their best basketball.
With all the shaking and moving around of the schedules, how much cooperation and camaraderie are you seeing amongst the athletic directors within the ECC to try to get as many games in as possible, whether it be in basketball or somewhere else, for these student athletes?
Yeah, there's been a lot of conversations, and we're in a great room of ADs, because at the end of the day, each school is going to have a different stance or a different situation. You look at a Turpin that's missing 2 weeks, or Milford's out right now as well, and other schools may be not competing for a title while others are, and having to make sure we do what's in the best interest of the kids, but make sure there's still an opportunity for that, that championship to be won and those matchups to occur. So we're all working together to make sure we do what's in the best interest of the kids, but in a healthy manner. We don't want anyone playing 5 or 6 games that last week of the season. So we're trying to shuffle things around to make sure it works best for everybody.
over on the girls' side, we talked last week about the big matchup between yourselves and Turpin, and you were able to get the win there, 59-48. So you sweep the regular season series with Turpin, then turn around on Sunday and beat Springfield Central Catholic, beat them handily in the game, and so you've got those nice 2 wins under your belt. And I want to give a credit to sophomore Kira Rogers, 14
Yeah.
points off the bench in that game, and so
Yep.
a big factor there, especially for someone young like that to come in. And we talked last week about the talent you have in as far as your upperclassmen goes, but to see someone like Kira coming off the bench and give you a big boost in a win like that, what kind of boost does that give to the team overall when someone young like that comes in and gives you 14 points?
I'm sure coach is thrilled. I wasn't at the game, but I do know they had a school record 12 3-pointers. But you talk about Kira. I love watching her play. I actually said something to coach the first time I watched them practice, that I just love her passion and her hustle, and her knowledge of the game. She has a tremendous basketball IQ and plays really tough defensively. So adding that on the offense, yeah, that's a bright future for her in the program, and coach has to be ecstatic. I think just any it just goes to show you, you have a lot more practices than games, and to see that development of younger kids come to fruition late in the season is really cool.
You're in a stretch right now where you're seeing a lot of 3-game weeks. We've got, as scheduled right now, Anderson and then Kings and then Sycamore by the next time we reconvene next week. That's scheduled for next Monday. How is there any concern right now as far as fatigue in the team because you're having to play these 3-game weeks just to make up and try and get a full season in?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly is, and that's stuff we're talking about when scheduling and doing makeups. And we already have one shakeup that hasn't been promoted yet, I guess. But Sycamore, we're not going to end up playing that game Monday as they make room
Okay.
for rescheduling conference games, just like we are. So,
Okay.
you start losing non-conference games to backload with your conference games that are being missed. So, we just warn our coaches and kids that there's going to be some uncertainty with the schedule, and they're taking it and doing what they need to do to just get ready for the next one. So, like I said, we'll do we're hoping to get 22 in and give them that full opportunity, but we're going to do what's safe and try to avoid those 4 and 5 game weeks for sure.
Let's move on to the wrestling, Matt, and a really good weekend up at Western Brown for your wrestling team. They win the Hammer and Anvil tournament, which is just a great name for a tournament, by the way.
Yeah.
So, and looking at some of the numbers, Joshua Bonney, your sophomore, wins at 106. Luke Marsh wins at 152. A lot of other podium finishes that you have there as well, top 5 finishes and what have you. Talk to me a little bit about Luke Marsh, and looking at the numbers, he's 13-2 on the year with 8 pins. Pretty darn good start to his season right now. What have the coaches said about his level of consistency that he's put out there each time out on the mat, and how does that permeate throughout the team when they see him performing match after match after match?
Yeah, he's just a competitor. I think he sets the tone in that room for coach, and he was actually just down here. He's going to be our student athlete of the week. He got his 100th career win as just a junior, and I know coach is really stoked for him. Used to be a 3-sport guy. Now he's doing wrestling and baseball, but really aspires to wrestle at the next level from what I'm told. And he puts a lot of energy and effort into it. Great kid, great family. I've heard nothing but great things, and I look forward to getting to know him more over the next year. But just, the wrestling program in general, when I started having conversations with Coach Hensley, they had, I believe, 7 or 8 district qualifiers last year that left the program due to graduation. And so there was kind of this expected lull. And you talk about younger kids stepping up and continuing to build, not necessarily rebuild, but reload. That room is filled with some tremendous wrestlers that have just stepped in, and now they have their opportunity after some of these big names, if you will, have graduated. And they're not skipping a beat, and they're pushing. They kind of have an underdog chip on their shoulder after losing a lot of those guys. And it's really, really cool to see them work and that pay off.
Where do you give the credit to in that instance where you lose so many guys from last year and the next crop comes in that is fairly young and they seemingly pick right up? Is that on the kids for understanding what the tradition is? Or do you also give credit to your coaches as well to have the next crop ready to go to where they don't seemingly miss a beat?
I'm going to use that word that's thrown around a lot these days is culture. You go into that wrestling room, you see those kids walk around school. They're on the same wavelength, the way they work, the way they train. There's just an attitude, and that program just has a total alignment from the youth on up. The youth program's exploding. The junior high, the junior varsity. I mean, top to bottom, the coaching staff does a phenomenal job.
Let's jump into the pool here, and interesting seeing the postseasons coming near, and of course the ECC tournament coming up.
Yep, excited for Saturday.
Yeah, how are they feeling? Are they feeling the same excitement?
I think so. As I mentioned before, I think just getting into more of a tournament format. There's been a lot of duels and things. Excuse me. That I don't want to say glorified practices, but you just want to get into one of these traditional meets and see how you stack up. So they've been working really hard. As I mentioned, they had some tremendous competition throughout the year, but this is kind of that first time where we're measuring up against the ECC, especially being in a new conference. So I think there's some excitement surrounding it, and I'm excited to get out there and watch them at Milford on Saturday.
How have they approached going into this? I mean, it's a little different with swimming than other sports in that you can't play defense, so you can't jump in the pool and stop somebody from trying to get to the wall and whatnot. You're going as much against the clock as anything else. And we've seen some of the times come in for both the boys and the girls and individual and the teams. And it's a quality league from top to bottom. How are they balancing looking at what other teams are doing along with trying to improve their own times?
You know what? I'm not entirely sure, but I assume those at the top that are heavily involved in club and other things, whether it's at the Lebanon Y or over at Mason or what have you, they have an understanding of who the top dogs are that they're going to be going up against in this conference and kind of the marks that they need to get to place or get to where they want to be. So I think those at the top that are really competitive in swim have an understanding of who's going to be in this one. But the majority, it's just improving your time each and every time out. I mean, that's the name of the game in swimming. And, it's a cool game in that cool sport in that you're competing, strictly against yourself. I mean, you can't catch somebody else unless you improve what you're doing.
Let's talk about your academic quiz team here, coming off a couple tough losses to Turpin, but now the schedule gets a little more favorable over the next couple of weeks. You're going to get Winton Woods and Milford over the next couple of weeks. They're both winless on the season thus far. Again, it's early in the season, so a long way to go. A lot of things to be determined here. How are they seeing the fact that this is a real good opportunity these next 2 weeks to pick up 4 wins and try and keep pace with some of the top tier teams in the league, especially Little Miami has had a terrific academic quiz team for a long time.
I think they're just moving on to the next one and seeing what they can do and seeing how things shake out. They have a host of tournaments and things they typically do in the spring, so we'll see if all those occur. But I just think they have a great time, and I don't know that they're necessarily looking, ahead regarding what the other team is. I think they're just taking the next one as an opportunity to go have fun, man, answer some questions and see how it shakes out. So they have a lot of really good time together.
You read my mind with the follow-up there. A lot of folks would look at an academic quiz team and competition as a lot of work and a lot of hard work, and it is. And I don't want to discredit the work that these student athletes are putting in, but a lot of people would have that perception of you're just studying material to try and fill your brain as much as possible. How much fun do these kids have in these matches, or even in the preparation leading up?
A ton, and I think they join in because they join in with their friends, much like any sport or extracurricular. So they just enjoy each other's company. They enjoy the work they're doing together, and I enjoy watching them enjoy it. So I think it's awesome. I think it's an awesome opportunity, and I'm glad it's growing the way it is. And it is a competitive thing for these guys because it's a great group of kids.
Let's talk about your two bowling teams, and we saved them for last because of how dominant they've both been in their first years in the ECC here. I want to start with the boys first. They're sitting right now at 7-1 in the league. Chasing West Claremont. Everybody's chasing West Claremont. West Claremont has not lost
Mhm.
this season. This is a really, really busy time for this boys team coming up in the next 7 to 10 days. A lot of matches scheduled right now, but one of those in particular is at least as is set up right now with West Claremont coming up a little bit later on this week, and it could very well end up deciding who wins the league and who
Sure.
doesn't win the league there. So West Claremont has been a team that throughout most of the season they've pretty much blown through everybody, have not been challenged a whole lot thus far. But you certainly have the athletes to give them all they can handle and then some. Take Warriors fans inside this matchup here, and how you think your team can match up with West Claremont and try and get the win.
Well, from what I know, we just have a very deep team that they continue to push each other, and it's really raised the bar, as you mentioned before on this show, that there's a couple, several that have over a 200 average. So, and I also think that's motivating them that they lost that match earlier in the year. So they continue working hard and stay very engaged. Sometimes it's hard keeping kids engaged when they're coasting through victories and
Yeah.
or being defeated regularly. So I think they're at a kind of a pivotal point there where they lost that one and it re-energized them a bit to stay focused. So um, they have high expectations, and coach brings that about in the program. So they'll be ready, and luckily it's the one sport that there's not a ton of you know, you don't necessarily need a rest between each match. You can bowl 5 days in a row just fine. So I know they got a lot coming up, but it's the one sport we're not too worried about the fatigue there.
Over on the girls' side, it's a similar type of story.
Yep.
It's West Claremont, it's Lebanon, and it's everybody else. And on the girls' side, both teams are undefeated, and so stakes are just as big on the girls' side, and they're going to do battle this coming week. Looking at the ECC's leaderboard right now, as far as team standings go, 1-2 in scoring. You're less than 10 pins behind West Claremont as far as team scoring.
Right.
Hannah Rarick, Cassandra Ingram, they're both in the top 5 individually.
Yep.
Ingram 173, Rarick 193. What have you seen in terms of the maturation and the growth of this team from the start of the year to now going into this matchup? And they have other matches, to prepare for ahead of West Claremont. So I know they're not going to look ahead of that. But what have you seen with your team, and what have they seen within themselves that gives them that belief in mind that they can knock off West Claremont?
I think the fact that they've bowled together for a few years has really helped them. And it's a sport where you have to really enjoy it. It can't just be some kids, right, wrong, or different. They may join the team just for something to do. I think these girls really really love the game of bowling and look for ways to improve at their craft. So it's become very competitive for them, and that's driven them to have great numbers. The other thing I'll say is as we're going through this, we're hearing a lot of top placements across the different sports, and I just wanted to make mention that
Yeah.
we actually looked at it yesterday, as I hadn't paid much attention to it going through all this COVID stuff, but we finished the fall in third place for the all sports trophy in the ECC. And looking at the winter, we were just going through, and you have our boys basketball in the top 2 there, girls in the top 2, wrestling going to be the top 1 or 2, both bowling's top 1 or 2. Swimming, obviously, we have that coming up here and have a good chance at finishing on the top half. Academic quiz team as well, and our cheer team's working hard. So we're getting excited, man. Maybe make a little
Yeah.
push for that thing, and hopefully be in the running in the spring. But across the board, it's really cool to see how awesome we're doing in every sport.
And this is your first year at Lebanon, and you're coming in and you're trying to figure things out along the fly, on the fly. You're seeing how these programs are performing on the fly, and you're trying to manage it all during a pandemic, and you're trying to get these seasons in, which you've done a great job at that thus far. What is it like for you to now you're in midway through the winter season roughly? You talked about all of the strong performances in the fall. It has not dropped off in the wintertime, and the
Mhm.
belief is that'll continue into the spring. For the new guy in town, for lack of a better phrase, what's that been like for you to see these results come in and see that every time out, and no matter what sport it is, Lebanon is right there among the elite in a brand new conference?
Well, I haven't stopped much to reflect on it. I think the main thing is that we were playing and that the kids were really having a good experience. So figuring out a way to make all these things go for them. Um, I think now we're just looking at how do we come out on the other end, and now maybe we can roll up our sleeves and look at some more big picture things as hopefully COVID starts to wind down. But yeah, I guess just haven't taken much time to reflect on the success, and that's why I'm saying just looking at that yesterday and realizing, not only are we come in and are competing, we're at the upper echelon of the conference because of our success across the board. It's not credited to one program or the other, but I think
Yeah.
I'm most proud of the consistency that we have. So continuing to try to, um, work on that and make that a constant across all of our programs. That our expectations are to be up there and continue to maintain that level of consistency.
You talked a little while before about culture within particular programs and the way they're able to build up specifically. I know we touched on that with the wrestling program and everybody that you lost from a year ago and where they are now seemingly haven't missed much of a beat at all. How much would you say that is the overall success is a byproduct of the culture, given the fact that you're the new man on campus, you've got a certain ways you want to do things, and yet it seemingly you're just keeping the train rolling. And how much of that do you give credit to the staffs that you had in place coming in that have just kept things rolling?
Oh, I think there's a lot of factors. Number one is the staff, and we have tremendous coaches here. Number two, I think that um, the GWalk was one heck of a competitive conference, and their different sports were, the big dogs in certain sports were different teams, but we went from I believe the seventh largest school in the GWalk to now the third largest in the ECC, which also helps.
Yeah.
Um, but then that changeover, that GWalk competition really prepared our program's kids and coaches to compete at a high level. I can see that personally coming over. That we compete at a very high level, we train at a high level, and our coaches have very high expectations for our kids. So I think all of those things factor in, but we have tremendous coaches, tremendous kids, and tremendous support. So I think all those things factor into why we've been able to be successful so far this year. But we want to continue building on it and raise the bar for each program a little bit year after year.
And it seems like every match out, every sport, they continue to just kind of one up each other, and that can be a
Mhm.
very good thing as far as that healthy competition within the athletics program, and they're all doing really well at that each and every time out. And we certainly appreciate you here today, Keith, taking a little bit of time to talk about that. A lot of success continues to go on, and look forward to talking more about it when we reconvene next week.
All right. Thanks for all you guys do. Appreciate the coverage, and go Warriors.
That is Lebanon Athletic Director Keith Pantling joining us for This Week in Lebanon Warriors Athletics here on LebanonWarriors.com and ESP Media, powered by Sidearm Sports.